What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about some of the biggest mistakes that wide receivers will make that honestly make them look really bad. So if you're trying to stand out to a coach, these are some things that you want to avoid, and we're going to talk about how receivers can also break out of these bad habits. Let's get started. Now, fellas, the first mistake I'd like to go over today is going to be cutting on your heels whenever you have to cut off of one foot or drop your hips as a wide receiver. So I think a lot of wide receivers will go up into a break. Let's use like a curl route, for example. Let's say it's a 12 back to 10-yard curl, receivers pushing up to 12, and to be able to stop, what they'll try to do is they'll try to like over-exaggerate their cuts, and the first part of their foot that hits the ground is actually their heel. Now, why is that bad? So think about just like speed training in general. Think about like if I'm trying to run like a 40-yard dash against somebody, do I want to run on my heels? No, I want to be on the ball of my foot because that is the most explosive part of my foot, and that's where a lot of speed comes from as a wide receiver. So same thing when I cut. I don't necessarily want to be like on my tippy toes when I cut. I want my whole foot to be down, but at the end of the day, I still have to be able to drive out. If I'm running a route like a post route, I still got to be able to push and drive out. So the weight needs to be distributed onto the ball of your foot. So the ball of the foot needs to hit the ground first, not necessarily your heel. So if I go up into this break and I go heel toe, what happens a lot of times is receivers' legs can lock out. They get this jolt up their leg, which puts a lot of pressure on their knee, which can lead to a knee injury down the road of constant wear and tear on tendons in your knee, and it's going to make you flat out slower. So guys, when we cut, we want to focus on stepping down. Something that I'll tell receivers that will kind of get them out of this habit: whenever you cut and you hit with your heel first, generally your chest starts to lean back. If you guys can think your chest stays ahead of your knees and stays ahead of your waist, and you can just cut, chances are you're probably not going to reach and the ball of your foot is going to hit the ground first. So if you can avoid cutting on your heels, you're going to make faster cuts, and you have longer, I guess you could say more longevity as a wide receiver because your knees aren't going to experience constant wear and tear. Now, fellas, before we get into some of these other mistakes that wide receivers will make, if you are a receiver or even a quarterback watching this, we are going to be traveling out to 7 more cities across the entire country for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps this offseason. So guys, go to that very first link in the description below if you'd like to sign up to train with myself and my staff. Next up on our camp tour, we'll be coming out to Newark, New Jersey. Then after that, we'll be heading out to Birmingham, Alabama, Houston, Texas, Boston, Massachusetts, Columbus, Ohio, Boise, Idaho, and finishing off our tour in Los Angeles, California. So guys, you want some more information, you want to sign up, very first link in that description below. Actually, our Houston camp and Columbus camp are completely sold out. We don't have any more available spots, but all of our camps will probably sell out within the next, I would say, week or so, you guys. So if you want to take advantage of us having open spots, very first link in that description below. We'd love to have you there. Now, fellas, the next mistake that receivers will make that I feel makes their breaks a lot slower and doesn't help them sell vertical on their routes is using their feet to stop rather than using their hips to stop on routes like curls, comebacks, digs, anything where you have to drop your hips to be able to decelerate. So what do I mean by that? So on every single route, you guys, like that involves a hip drop cut, really generally any route at all, you have to make that DB think that we were running vertical. Our goal is to get this DB to backpedal, turn and open up his hips and run out of there, and we put the brakes on in front of him or whip the brakes on underneath him, whatever the case may be. So a lot of receivers know to do that. A lot of receivers come off the ball, they have long strides, they keep a slight forward lean with their pad level, and they run with great speed. And those are all things that translate to selling vertical. That's what makes that DB think that we're just trying to run past him. But what a lot of guys will do when they have to drop their hips, they'll be running and they try to stop with their feet and then they drop their hips. And honestly, that's going to make your break super slow, fellas. A lot of old school wide receiver coaches used to teach this called beat the drum, where to get into a break, you chop your hands and you chop your feet and you gradually sink your hips. I don't want that. I want the hip drop to happen first and then the feet happen after. You want to think your hips are violent and you want to drop your hips, not slowly sink your hips and chop your feet, because that's just a slower way to do it. There are faster ways to do things nowadays. So when you're going up into a break, you guys, I tell receivers play musical chairs. When the music stops in musical chairs, what do? Do you like break down to sit into a chair? No, you just sit down into a chair. And if you could think your chin goes to your knee as violently and as quickly as you can, that will stop that habit of your feet chopping. So play musical chairs, drop to 90 degrees, chin goes to your knee, then worry about your feet getting you out, but don't step hard, and then gradually drop your hips. Now, the next problem that I see a lot of receivers have that make them look insanely bad is against press coverage, where they just step rather than sell with their hips. So what do I mean by that? So let's say, for example, you got a guy, let's say you have a DB who's right in front of your face. Let's say he's in press coverage right in front of your face, and let's say you have to run a post route. So he doesn't have inside shade, doesn't have outside shade, he's just head up right in front of us, and we got to run a post. So obviously in that situation, I'd like to take an inside release. So my goal with my press release is I want this DB to try to jump to the outside so I could take that inside release, be able to get separation and get off the press effectively. So a lot of guys, what they'll do is they just step. So like, let's say I want to do a crossover move. What they'll do is they'll just step, but their hips never exactly move. Guys, you got to think your right hip is attached to your right foot, your left hip is attached to your left foot, and your head is even with your knee when you make a release cut, because that's what gets the DB to bite. Why is that? Because DB guys in press, he ain't supposed to be looking at your head, he ain't supposed to be looking at your feet, he's supposed to be looking at your hips. So you got to sell with your hips. So if I'm trying to give just like a quick jab step to the outside, I don't want to go just 1-2. I want to go 1-2. You see how my hip goes with the foot, head goes with the knee. As if a DB's keyed in on my hips, this actually makes him think I'm going in that direction. This does not. This does. So a lot of times you see receiver coaches on social media like teaching guys like to do like a stick, and they have them do this here, but there's no movement with their hips. They're just stomping in the ground. That is not how you beat press coverage, you guys. How you beat press coverage is moving your hips to this other lane. I think of it like if you have head up press, there's 3 lanes, like driving. Left lane, middle lane, right lane, right? I want my right hip to go to that right lane, and that's what gets the DB to jump. Not my foot, because now I'm too wide. It's hip and the foot are attached, and that's how you get more separation against press. Now, the next problem I see with receivers is not having a pre-snap plan. So what do I mean by that? So your pre-snap plan as a receiver should be based off of 2 things that you see. Actually, really, it's 3 things that you would see from a DB. First one is going to be their leverage. Second one is going to be distance. Third one is going to be the type of coverage that it is. So is it man or is it zone? So leverage that a DB shows you, this is how you come up with like a release. This is how you structure your route. I think a lot of receivers, what they'll do is they come up to the line of scrimmage and they don't even necessarily really even look at the coverage. Maybe they do, but they don't have a plan of action to beat that coverage. They come up to the line and it's just like, oh crap, I'm going to take off and run. And that's when a DB will reroute us to the sideline, get hands, screw up the timing with the quarterback. We got to have a plan, you guys. And it's based on, like I said, leverage, distance, and coverage. So let's say I got this look right here. The red cone is the DB, orange cone is the line of scrimmage, right? That's inside shade. Let's use a route like a 10-yard out, for example. So I got 10-yard out, inside shade press. Okay, so the leverage tells me what he's trying to take away and where he's trying to force me and where his help is. So if he's inside shade, inside leverage, that means he doesn't want me to run inside. That's why he's lined up there. He doesn't want me to take a step and go run a slant. He's going to get hands and disrupt timing, right? He wants me to go to the outside, which is where his help is, aka the sideline, right? So that's all that leverage tells me. Second thing I want to know about is his distance. That's how I pick my release. If he's right up in my face like this, I'm probably not going to close the space with him, then give a move or do any type of like hop release. I'm probably going to give him something quick. Maybe I give him a little split release, whatever it is. Now, I work that because of the leverage and because of his distance. Let's say now he's like 2 to 3 yards away, okay? Now I could probably close space, then give a move based on that, but the leverage still dictates what he's trying to do. So I'd attack him, give him a move inside, make him think I'm going inside to move him off the platform, aka more space to the outside, and I'm not just running right to his help. Now what would I do if he's outside shade and I gotta run the same type of route? Okay, cool, he's right up on line. Outside shade means he has help to the inside and he doesn't want me to run outside. What if I have to run an outside breaking route, like an out route? So if I gotta run an out route, I don't wanna give him one of these and force it, because he's not going to give that up. That's his leverage. What I do want to do, give him a move, take the inside release, and my goal is to try to stack him or get him right next to me, and I could swap by and cut under. We call that a throw by move. But all that is dictated by my plan of action, what I see pre-snap. So many receivers don't have that. They come up to the line and they try to think of it, ball snap, oh crap, and then they just run. You need a plan of action, and that plan of action is based on leverage, distance, and coverage. Now also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver and you would like a 2-month-long workout schedule that you can do where we have everything mapped out for you by sets and reps, days of the week, Monday you're doing this, Tuesday you're doing that, in the gym and on the field, go to that second link in the description below for our elite wide receiver training package. Within our training package, like we said, we map out everything for you for 2 full months, on-field drills to improve your route running, your press releases, your hands, gym exercises to get you faster, more explosive, develop that quick twitch, and we break down everything with exact sets and reps reps and video examples of each drill and gym exercise. So guys, want some more information? Go to that very first link in the description below, or excuse me, the second link in the description below. Second link, that is where you can get our Elite Wide Receiver package. Now, the next mistake that receivers will make off the line of scrimmage versus press, you guys, is using the same release every single time. Guys, DBs are smart, right? So if you have this inside shade press look, and let's say for sake of the example, we have to run a fade route, right? If I gotta run a fade, this guy's inside shade press, I shouldn't, every time I run a fade, if I just keep going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and I keep doing that over and over again, and that's the only release that I have, and he sees the jab step, inside step, like he's not gonna bite on the inside fake because I've done that so many times. So I would recommend you should have 2 releases that should work versus each specific coverage look that you'll see based on your routes. And the 2 releases should be a little bit different, all right? So what I would use, if I was still playing receiver and I had like inside shade press, the 2 releases I would go to would be a crossover where I'm threatening his leverage, and then I would work a little slide, right? So I'd work a slide takeoff. So the first one's a fast-paced release. Second one's a little bit slower. It's still quick. It's not necessarily rushed, but it's definitely not slow, if that makes sense. But the reason why I do that is it accomplishes the same thing, but it's different ways to do it, and it could keep the DB on his toes. So like if he's inside shade and I slide, he's probably thinking I'm sliding to move him to cut back inside. So I could slide and then just take off, right? Now, same thing. If I want to do a faster paced release, 1, 2, but let's say I've worked that a couple times. You come back to that slide and it can still work on the route. It still accomplishes the same thing and holds his leverage to the inside, but it's not predictable. The key to being a great receiver, making your releases look the same, but don't be predictable. If you can be predictable, that makes it easy for a DB to lock us up.